What is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sibling Rival-Read, the comic book club show hosted by yours truly. It's Ben Pie and my sister, right down there.
Anna Kin. Like
Boom.
a dash.
Yeah, just like that.
I like the dashes.
Yep. She also likes sand.
And
Oh my God, Anna, really? Anakin? I hate sand. It's rough, coarse, gets everywhere.
but I thought you actually meant me. I
Oh,
thought
goodness
Anakin.
gracious.
So
This is the comic book club show that we host to kind of figure out what comics are good, interesting. We read a volume every week and give our opinion on the story, the art, overall how it is as a book, and whether or not it's a good one to start out with if you are a newcomer to the comic book world. This week was my choice.
it was, and it was your risky choice.
It was my risky choice. Um, my risky choice was Hawkman, Hawk's Eternal.
Was a
Um,
volume 4, not a volume 1.
I know it was a volume 4.
So not only was it a risky choice for the superhero, it was a risky choice in the volume.
Yeah, well, I mean, so when you think about it, like when we read Batman stuff or Wonder Woman stuff, we're not usually reading volume ones. We're reading things that are in the middle, and this I did want to do something a little bit different. I wanted to pick something that kind of had the character established already, and was like had an end to it. And it's funny because for my DC choice this month, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to read, so I asked my wife, like, I don't even know what hero I want to read. And her answer was, why don't you read something Hawk Girl? I'm like, oh, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Um, because like in the animated series, like the Justice League animated series, I like Hawk Girl's character. She's cool. Um, so I start doing some research and come to find that not a lot of actual Hawk Girl comics, let alone like, and not a lot of like Hawk Girl centric Justice League comics even. She's not a major character in the realm of the DC universe. So I started kind of delving a little deeper and trying to find a story that would still be interesting and kind of get that scratch that itch kind of thing. And I was between quite a few. Um, and finally landed on this volume in particular, or this run by Robert Venditti, um, kept popping up over and over again, and I was like, okay, well let's check it out, and that's how I came to choose this one. It was definitely a risky choice because A, this is a character I knew nothing about um, going into it. Like,
Other than like animated
right.
material.
And even that, like, I barely remember Hawk Girl's backstory. Oh my goodness, you almost died. So it was definitely it was a risky choice in like every aspect of what I was doing and like goes against how I pick my comic books in general.
Yeah,
Um,
you took a page out of my book.
I know. And in addition to that, I was so worried about the decision I made. I literally read every issue of this run because
Leading
like
into it.
well, leading into it, and the last issue of this is the end of this run, so I literally have now
Yeah.
read every issue of this run. Um, which before I could only really say about Spider-Man comics that I have read the entire series kind of thing. So,
Well,
I mean, granted, it's 27 comics versus 700 comics,
yeah,
but
I
still,
mean, it's not a long. It would pretty much be the equivalent of reading an entire run of Martian Manhunter.
yeah, exactly. Um,
Very
and
doable.
yeah, and Hawkman wasn't. I did not realize one that there was so much like Egyptian mythology that went into Hawkgirl and Hawkman.
Okay, I did know that, but there wasn't that much for this that I
No,
felt tied into it. So that's why I was reading this and I was like, okay, maybe I made a complete fool out of myself in the last one when I was talking about Egyptian mythology, because that's probably the only thing that I knew about Hawkman and Hawkwoman.
uh-huh.
And then I read this and there's like very, very little until
Right.
the like it comes in
The
at the very end. And I was
uh-huh.
like, okay,
Um,
think I did something wrong.
so you said that, and I started reading at the beginning of this run. So I was astonished. It was really really a fascinating Hawkman and Hawkwoman, fascinating heroes.
Yeah.
Um, like the fact that they are reincarnating again and again and again and again across time, across space. Like they mention it a little bit here and there, but it's not just him reincarnating on Earth. There's a
He was a
past.
Kryptonian.
Yeah, there's a past life where he's a Kryptonian. There's a past life, where he's from Thanagar. There all of these like really really fascinating backstory to this character, and I really enjoyed it. Now I am going to do my best to separate the this final volume from the rest of the series, um, because I could definitely see coming into it how it could be incredibly confusing right off the bat. Um,
Yeah, but I mean, like, it turned me off in the first few pages because I was like, "What?" With the dark multiverse.
uh-huh.
But I
Which
mean, that's really the only you're like, "Okay, I don't really know what's going on," but it's as if you're quick to accept it, you don't get confused.
right. And I will say, partially, this was still confusing going uh, into it reading from issue one, because I haven't read any of what is it, death metal.
It's on my reading
It's
list.
on my reading list too because it's so fascinating. Like this other universe, Batman is the Batman who laughs. It's Joker Batman.
Mhm.
Look at how cool Joker Batman looks.
Yeah,
Like,
all the character designs for that one do look
oh
interesting.
my gosh. Yeah, exactly. Um, and like even the dark multiverse Carter, uh, the
Here's a better
designs
costume.
is pretty cool. Needs a better
I don't like his
costume.
helmet. His helmet was a little
Wait a minute.
unnerving with the little dread tentacle rope things with the discs at the end or
I'm gonna need to. That's not it.
the chain links or circly doodads.
Oh yeah, the circly doodads. That makes.
You're welcome. I have a degree in costuming. It's fine.
Oh, there we
Move
go.
on.
Here
It's
we
not
go.
a D ring because it's not, but it's something similar.
No, I understand what you're saying though.
Thanks.
Um, and there were definitely some like it was an interesting volume because it is. I thought it was like on my initial read through, I was like, oh wow, this brings in like three separate storylines. but at the same time, like those three storylines actually did see. I felt like
More.
they. What's that?
It brought in more. Are you talking about for the lives element to it?
No, 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 no. I mean like
Okay.
the story arcs in the volume.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
like there was the first arc with the evil Hawkman.
Yeah.
The second arc where I guess that kind of flowed in with the first arc where they defeat the evil Hawkman and end up in the other realm and are fighting against, oh gosh, the one
The
beyond the
god of
veil.
the void or whatever.
Beyond the
Just
void, that's what it was.
yeah.
Um and and then the final story arc of the Anubis guy, the Anubis priest.
Hmm.
Um, and at first I was kind of like, wow, this isn't even really one story arc in this. But then when you kind of think about it, it is the conclusion of
Hawkman.
Hawkman and Hawkwoman.
Yeah.
And they just picking up like that last arc or anything like that. I don't think it was enough to be certain. Um, so like after sitting and thinking about it a little more, I was definitely a lot more like, okay, I could see this. I could see how these go together. Uh, but yeah, I have to say, reading through all of Hawkman and the it going back into some of his past lives. Oh my gosh, those were some of my favorite moments in all of it. Even in volume 4 here, when they're is it Spain, I think?
Yeah. With the plague
Yeah.
doctor mask.
Oh my gosh. That whole thing was ah so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. And the fact that he had the nth metal as his mask and all, oh freaking great, man.
I thought that they brought in quite a few other lives for him because you have the dark multiverse.
Hmm.
You had this one in the plague doctor mask.
Uh-huh.
You had his original life that you got a little bit
Yeah, and you do
of.
get a lot more of it if you do read the whole thing. Just as a fly kind of thing.
And then you got yeah, and then you got this very first one where he was the archaeologist that Adam Strange like worships
Uh-huh.
and fanboys over. And then at the end, even though it's technically still Carter Hall, it's the JSA instead of the JLA.
Yeah. I loved that part where it was like, oh, this is they brought it back old school.
They did bring it back old school, and I liked the reflection play where you
Uh-huh.
saw old school them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um no, overall I really enjoyed the way they put together. Is this it? Oh my god, I did it. Um how they did the art, because like
Mhm.
even especially looking at that reflection play panel, it's showing like the art that they've been doing in the book and then reflecting like very silver age looking comic book art.
Yeah.
And that's something that is a nice little touch.
It was also fun when Hawkwoman spit at
Uh-huh. Go on.
um Seth, not Hathor, because Hathor is a female. Uh,
um the priest of Anubis.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can't think of his name.
Hothstedt or Hathstedt or something like that.
Something like that. I was like, I remembered it started with an H, and the only name that's coming to me from Egyptian mythology is Hathor, and I'm like, it's definitely not Hathor.
I'm not sure I know what part you're talking about. Is it on the train?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
there
just
it
a
is.
picture of his face, and
Right
it's
there.
her from the 40s instead
Oh,
of her.
I didn't even notice that.
You're welcome.
Oh, Anna, that's not her from the 40s. That's an old woman's hair. An old woman zombie going at her.
Well, in her reflection, she had similar hair, sir.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Um,
say it's her from the 40s because that makes it more creative.
uh-huh. Yep. Um, but I really enjoyed this, and it was. I mean, so obviously, like every time there we read comics, it's like every comic hero has their um, every DC hero has their analogous hero in Marvel universe.
Mhm.
Like I mean, you look at Superman, and you can very easily compare him to someone like Spider-Man, or you look at Batman, and you can very easily compare him to similar to Tony Stark in a
Yeah.
way. Um, and it's like they're similar but different. And obviously, like
I still personally see uh Superman as more of a Captain America than a Spider-Man.
yeah, I mean,
Both had this discussion.
yeah, we have. Um, but I feel like Hawkman is kind of a slightly more interesting Thor. Not to say that Thor isn't interesting or like a neat hero, but Thor is a single immortal being.
Mhm.
Where it's like Hawkman, he is reincarnated again and again and again and again and again. So he's not just one person. I mean, he's still like the one person across all of those lives, but
But he's a
still
different version of himself in each life.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I find that kind of depth added onto it to be absolutely just that is the part that fascinated me.
Well, I mean, you
Um,
could easily have a mini series for each life you could create for a Hawkman for every
Absolutely.
reincarnation, and it would be interesting each time.
Yeah. And it's one of those like what hero? Oh, it was Martian Manhunter. Where I was so frustrated with how they just up and changed his entire backstory.
Yeah, and yet with
And
this one, you're gonna be like, but this time it makes sense because you could up and change his story every single life.
because you could up and change his story every single life.
You didn't really change his story with a Marsh Manhunter, but that was my opinion from that one. But I felt like this one um made me more interested in reading material for Hawkman,
Hmm.
like reading about his past lives.
Yeah.
That I
So
would want to read just like a mini series type of a thing about his past lives
so on
or
DC
about
Universe.
his friendship with the Atom.
Uh-huh. So this entire series is only 27 issues long. I highly recommend Anna because it's on DC Universe Infinite.
Mm.
Um, read through it because you get a lot of glimpses of past lives, and the Atom isn't like Atom is not the only one that he has like this relationship with because of a past life. Like everything he does, it's like he's
No, no, no.
talking.
I'm saying the Atom, not Adam Strange.
Right, okay. But even still.
Yeah, yeah, but it was just a really wholesome relationship that you glimpse in this volume between the Atom and Hawkman.
Right.
Like
Um,
Adam Strange obviously had a history with him, but it wasn't as like wholesome or like gut wrenching when he saw him dead.
right. Um, this like the art in this part of the book was some of my favorite.
Mine too, because I mean, overall, I kind of found the art pretty. I don't want to say mainstream because again, I feel like that's
Like it kind
bad
of
or
feels like
mean
right,
or something like that. But
or
it's
it
kind of
feels
just
like a cop out kind of description of it when that's not what we're trying to say.
no. I mean,
It
it's
didn't
just there wasn't anything that really stood out for the most part.
right. Nothing was like wow.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make the art bad.
No.
It wasn't it didn't detract from the book at all, or anything like that. Um, but the design of this guy, this guy, um,
The
I
Void God.
the exactly was I thought just like super cool, and then him draining the life force and essentially becoming more powerful, and then them in the end essentially sending all of their previous lives to kick his ass.
Yeah.
Um, like I really liked it.
Yeah. It was one of those things that I did
Like
finding
this
a
right here.
favorite. Yeah, I was like finding a favorite panel was a little bit more challenging because like my favorite panel for the artwork wasn't necessarily my favorite panel for the entire
For like the story.
book.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, for the story, because my favorite panel for the story would have been Hawkman and Hawkwoman's past lives emerging. And I mean that also could very well be nerd me going, look at all of those costumes.
No, I that's exactly what I was looking at though. Like, oh my gosh. I wanna see Wild West Hawkman and Hawkwoman.
Right?
I wanna
They have
read
the
that
stupidest
story.
costumes though now. And their current run is their stupid costumes.
Yeah, like kind of disappointing costumes. I agree. Um, but I I definitely want to read more Hawkman
Mm-hmm.
and Hawkgirl. Um,
Woman. I mean both are
Hawkwoman. Yeah.
her name is
You know what I
both,
mean.
but
Like I do want to read more of it, and I like that the way this book ended. There's still plenty of room for there to be Hawkman and Hawkwoman in future series. It's just
yeah. Well,
you know
yeah.
this Hawkman and Hawkwoman. It's not going to be a different one. Um, and then another one of my favorite scenes was this.
Yeah.
And in when they showed the previous life of Shaira,
Mm-hmm.
this area, I absolutely loved the two panels where her wings are essentially like disintegrating. I thought these two full pages, so here and then for Carter's redemption, I thought these were the two. These were some of my favorite pages. I liked the lighting. I liked just the mood of them. It's great, and again, the
Very
disintegr
photographic.
the disintegrating wings just look so uh so good. You know?
I liked these panels for the lighting and for the skulls
Mhm.
type of element. I didn't think that the character design stood out much in terms of their illustration, and
I
I
will
wasn't
agree with
all
you
that
there.
impressed with the disintegrating wings,
Okay.
but that's just a personal take. And again, I think it's also coming from like you imagining it as a photo
Mhm.
kind of
Well,
pushes all of those things.
and I think a lot of it has to do with just the mood of it. Like the symbolism of like this is her
Losing
moment.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
She is being cast out by God.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
Yeah.
which we went we 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 had God appear in two comic books for this month.
Yeah, I feel like we end up going very religious in some way or the other, like
Mhm.
spiritual religious or just outright at some point,
Yeah,
which is funny every month.
and I just love the old Green Lantern
I
design.
like the photo of the JSA
Uh-huh.
illustration also a lot. It did though completely bum me out that Wildcat looks way cooler in the photo version than he does as the character version.
He looks like Batman without a cape in the photo.
Yeah, and in this one, which I mean, I like the boxing wrappings, like
Yeah, yeah,
the hand
yeah.
wrapping.
He's got the.
Um, but the color changing for the mask, for the cheeks and everything like that is very cartoon, like little kid going around trick or treating in a cat costume.
100%. It's
And that
like
bothered the crap out of me.
imagine if Black Panther were like, I don't know. You know when Jafar
And
turns
chubby cheeks.
Yeah, you know when Jafar turns Raja into a little kitten Mao?
Yeah.
That's imagine if Jafar turned Black Panther into a little kitten Mao. That's what
Yeah.
Wildcat looks like.
And this design but like the past photo, he looks awesome and badass.
Yes, I
And you're
agree.
just like, what? God.
I agree. Um, which is crazy because it doesn't look as jarring. Oh, you can't see him. On this page, on page 148, you see him fighting this chick. And
The wide angle shot of them all fighting. Because I mean, when you get a close up on him fighting with the cheetah like character,
mhm.
he still looks redonkulous.
Right, but I don't know. I think it's something about the other page where he's purple versus this page where he's blue. It's not as I don't know. For me, it's
Yeah.
not
Where the
as
highlight
cartoony.
is,
But it's
yeah.
like this is this is like
Looks
Periwinkle
like
the
a
cat
dork.
from Blue's Clues. This is Periwinkle the cat from Blue's Clues, all grown up.
Looks like a dork. And then
Yeah,
like you hear him talk and you're like, wow. You're like the bully from high school, not the nerd, but you very much look like the nerd.
right. Um, I've been talking a lot.
Oh,
What
you're
did
fine.
what are so give me some of your thoughts.
So, okay, so I did really enjoy the story. It's one of those things where I've come away from it wanting to read more Hawkman, which I think is the point, obviously. You want to be drawn into the character. Um, and with that being said, though, like, I don't know if I would want to. I was very much more drawn into things that could really fit into a mini series of each of the past lives. And I'm interested in his relationship with other characters and how they develop. So I really enjoyed this because it got me interested in Hawkman
Yeah,
more so.
the fact that
Uh,
it's like a character that's an archaeologist too just makes it that much.
you an archaeologist.
Well, no, but it's like Indiana Jones plus being a superhero.
Mm.
It's cool.
But I mean, I would love to read about the moment also when Superman realizes you were a Kryptonian.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Um.
And that giant version of himself.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Mega Hawkman.
yeah, all the names were funny. It was another one of those things that was super funny. So Sarah, this is a little bit of a tangent, but Sarah, I got her to watch Static Shock
Yeah, I heard.
because it's on HBO, and I really loved that show growing up. And so we're watching it, and the JLA come in, and I'm like, I know a little bit more. And Hawkwoman's in there, and Gear, one of the characters, goes, "Well, we just met a Thangarian," and Sarah's like, "What?" I'm like, "That's Hawkwoman." I'm like, I know this now, like,
Mhm.
because there's no way I knew enough about these characters to actually know that specific of
Yeah.
a species type. But I was like, yeah, I felt I deserved my nerd badge in that moment.
Yeah, considering you
Um,
can never remember names otherwise.
I know. But that's in real life too, so that doesn't warrant my nerd badge getting revoked. Because, I mean, I could meet somebody in real life and call them something completely different. Like my friend's husband,
Hmm.
I went to their wedding a few years ago, still totally get his name wrong.
Nice.
Yeah. Um, and then as for art, obviously I liked the panel with all of the versions, the past lives, which is a full page, totally poster worthy.
Apps. I would print that out as a poster and put it in the room that I record in.
Yeah, the nerd room.
100%. Yep.
I feel like that's what you should do.
Is like blow up some comic book pages.
Well, no, like every month. Oh, I also really liked the full page of Hawkwoman in color with all of her past lives. But again, that was more for the past lives moment than it was for the artwork. Whereas the artwork and combining the past lives in that full page of both of
For
them
sure.
with the
Uh-huh.
souls, because when their past lives soul versions were coming out, it was a much tighter
Yeah.
color scheme and told a more finite story.
Uh-huh.
Um, but no, what I was saying was you should get like one of your favorite panels every month blown up as a poster or as a picture
Uh-huh.
and put it on the wall, and then you'll have like the story of our podcast on your wall.
It's actually not a terrible idea. I kind of like
Okay,
that.
you need to stop saying like this is actually not a bad idea. This is actually not a terrible idea when I come up with an idea, because it happens frequently that I come up with decent ideas, sir.
Okay. Well, anyways, so in issue like 1 or 2 of Hawkman, there is this similar panel, but for Hawkman's past lives.
The full color
Yeah.
past life.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It
Um,
sounded like it just based on the
but yeah, it's like I love looking at these like the Rocketeer looking Hawkwoman in the middle of the page, and then
mhm,
like the
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 solid
JL
gold one.
yeah, the solid gold one looks really cool. The JLA look like what I knew of Hawkwoman in the top right, and then I want to know what this Hawkwoman in the bottom right is
With the tribal costume.
like the super tribal costume holding a hatchet, um, with a really like
The mask is almost like gold court of owls.
it is, um, and it's like her whole costume is like wrapped green. It's really
Yeah,
it's really
drip.
neat. And then there's like this in the top right. There's this like Knights of the Templar looking Hawkwoman.
Oh,
I want that one. I want that story. You know, like I'm looking at these and I'm like, oh man, I want all of this. I want all of this as a story, especially Wild West. Like
some of them just get so crazy that you're like, oh my god, what?
yeah. Um but yeah, it
uh,
was continue. You were talking about art and then I interrupted.
oh no, you're fine. And then the most of the other artworks that I have bookmarked here are from the Void fight. So I mean, you have this one where it is like a legitimate just single panel where you have the god's face. And I mean, you see this god being incredibly terrifying and everything like that, and then you get
Can you
this
give me a page?
almost comical face. I didn't write down pages for this one. I literally, because I was reading it so late in the evening.
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, so go. It is right around when they decide to give all of their past lives. It's right here.
Okay.
So it is on the screen currently. It is on the right side page. The
Page
second
133.
row down, second column far to the right. Where like you see this character who is incredibly menacing, and he almost has like this really comical face of resignation and disgust, which I thought spoke volumes to the artists for being able to create this incredibly terrifying character and still make him look kind of comical.
Yeah.
In that single moment. I think that is the only moment where I kind of like chuckled at his facial expression. And just how he was drawn throughout. Him, the Dark Joker, or not the Dark Joker, the Batman Who Laughs, and the Talon, what was it? Like the Dark Multiverse of Carter. I just can't remember his name. All of them and how they approached their shadowing with these really fine cross-hatching moments as opposed to the solid shading for the heroes, I thought was incredibly interesting. And an interesting kind of breakaway that I really, really loved, and I kind of wished that it was in more throughout, but at the same time it was a cool breakaway. Differentiating the moods of villains versus heroes. Another one of my favorite full page moments was when you see the god from the void come out and like electrocute Hawkman and Hawkwoman right away. The color story for that with the red at the red sky going into the lightning blue, I thought was extremely well done. It was the page go before.
Going forward?
This? No, I guess it's going after. No, yeah. Go back.
Do it. Oh, okay. Yeah. I see what you're talking about. Zippity zappity?
What? It's not this page in particular, but it's around here. It is a little, it's a full page artwork. With the red sky and him coming down where you see all of the wings and stuff. And I thought it was the first moment you saw him. I thought it was the character's introduction, which I guess I'm wrong. But color theory for that was really well done, and the introduction to just the art style of the villain and how it differed from them was super cool.
This is the page, right?
No. That's the moment. There's another page of this exact moment. And it's that one.
This one. Okay.
I was like, I described it for the people on the podcast.
You did. I just wanted to be able to see it too.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all.
Which this one is another one that I think could be poster worthy. It's one of those things that I had a Killing Joke poster in college in one of my dorm rooms. And because the art was gorgeous, but Mom saw it and she goes, "That is the most terrifying poster I've ever seen." And I feel like that's probably this. Where it's like, it's really awesome artwork, but you'd probably look at it and be like, why on earth would you have this hanging in your room? Same with all of the cover arts, where you're like, oh my god, these are so amazing. And then you're like, man, but they're nightmare inducing.
All of the cover arts for this volume, oh my god, absolutely gorgeous. And again, yeah. I know when it comes to our
art grading,
they don't count. They are absolutely stunning.
Like, I want to follow the artist of those cover arts.
Just so good. So good. Like every single one. was incredibly well done. Like if I were in a comic book store and judging books by covers, I would pick up some of these books. And the cover artist, oh gosh, it's written on here somewhere about just who did covers. Collection cover artist Michael Janine. I don't. That's a name I'm butchering. Cool. That's great. Um, but like even this cover,
Of the
like
volume. Yeah.
of the volume, and this is I think the cover for like the final the last book in the volume as well. Um, absolutely awesome with the Hawkwoman Hawkman embrace.
Yeah.
Just it looked so you could see the history in this cover. You know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
The,
Um,
the last couple of issues with the story arc of them in the JSA and how it ended in the 40th century, I was like, because when they decided to go back to Earth and God was like, you years will go by like days or whatever, and I was like, so are they still gonna live for forever until they die, or are they gonna die like a normal person?
well, it
And this was
looks.
answered.
Yep, it looks like
And
they
then it was
will.
answered.
Um, and I really dug this. Like the whole
Her suit, I love her suit.
her suit was awesome, and then like you know how every comic book hero has like that specific way that they do that specific style that they do the character's thoughts. And
The narration, yeah.
Hawkman's throughout the book has been like handwriting on parchment, like look. And then you get to the end, and it pays off because it's like you are legitimately hearing old man Hawkman telling the story of his final life. And
I love all of the journals. That's another
I'm here
moment
for it.
where I'm like, you could totally have a mini series of
Yep.
just all of the journals that he wrote, which would obviously be his past lives. So
Yeah.
I already said that, but still.
I'm I I came out of this um really having a respect for not necessarily just Hawkman as a character, but being open to some of the more obscure characters. Like, oh man, how many
I've
more
always
characters? What?
the obscure characters.
What's that?
I said I've always been open to the more obscure characters, but yeah.
Right, but I've been open to them, but not so open that I just want to pick up a standalone of them. Like, oh, I'd like to learn more of Martian Manhunter, but with the Justice League kind of thing. And it could just be that Martian Manhunter does not interest me much at all. Um, whereas this character came across a little more interesting to me personally.
No, I get it.
Um, but it definitely opened
What
up
is it
my
cool about past lives?
right. But it definitely opened up my mind to be like, okay, I should look into some more of these because this is cool. Um, we've been blathering on about this already for 45 minutes,
Wow!
and
More time?
and and usually
Wait, did you
it's what
did you point out any other favorite panels that you wanted to show
my
aside from
my big favorite panel was the past lives shooting out of
coming out?
them and kicking ass. Uh, there was another panel that I really liked, but I didn't write it down, and I don't remember exactly what it was. When because it was earlier on, um, but I don't want to just go through every individual page, have YouTube get mad at me for showing every page of the comic, um, and going from there. Um, so that was my big favorite panel.
Yeah.
Um, so we start with story, and that's where I do the rating. Now, as much as I've been saying how much I really loved reading Hawkman, um, I do respect the fact that this is one that I hope our listeners read and are like, oh, it's only 27 issues. I want to read the rest of this run.
Hmm.
Because this one is really worth reading from the beginning. And knowing what volume one of of Hawkman is, I don't regret choosing the last volume of it. Um, but I do think it might be a little jarring for someone just getting into a comic book.
Okay.
If you know some of Hawkman already and things like that, you have some background. I think this is a great story and does uh, some good justice to kind of bringing about the end of the character, or the end of this life and the struggles of Hawkman on the large reincarnation scale, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so this is one. Gosh, I actually have a really hard time giving this one a score because there's a part of me that wants to say a 6, but it's not. The story isn't a 6. Like I feel like the story is at the very least a 7. It's just that it's I'm gonna give it a 7. Um, because it is good. It's still like I always think of it if I were grading a paper, I would give this a passing grade. And a 6 isn't really a passing grade.
Hey,
Uh, I
B's
know,
get degrees.
right? I knew you were going to say that. Um, so I think I'm going to give it a 7 because I do still think, like like you said, one if you kind of push through it for the first little bit, it pays off.
Mhm.
It just is a slow start if you start here, kind of thing, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Wow, I was never gonna give it a 6.
Okay.
No, it just always makes me feel like I'm like, I probably grade way too nice, maybe sometimes. But
I
for
think
me,
as we do this more, we're going to get harsher and harsher as we read because we've read a lot of comics, but we've not like critiqued a lot of comics. And I have a feeling
yeah,
that as we do this more and more, we'll go back and we'll be like, okay, this is we should after like a year of doing this, we should go back and re-grade all of the comics that we've scored.
we should have like a super fun December month where we just go off on our a year in review type of a thing.
I dig it. That could be our like New Year's episode.
Yeah. Um, but so for me, it's not a superhero that I've ever thought to read on his own. I thought it was a good. I mean, yeah, it was a slow start, but I really only think that if you get past the first issue, you're going to be pretty well off in terms of understanding.
Yeah, the first issue does a decent job at setting it up.
Yeah. Um and throughout the storyline flows really well. I think that it captures the essence of the characters really well. It engages you um in their story, in their past lives, in all these other things about them that makes you interested to continue reading more or look into reading more or what have you in regards to these characters, which makes me want to be like, I know that this will not be my favorite storyline for this character. If I were to go into a deep dive and really find the types of comics that I want for this character, I'm sure I can find them. Even if it's just starting from the beginning, like you said, of this run.
Yep.
So,
but it'll hold that special place in your heart for being the first one of this character that you read.
And to get me into it, which is why that I don't think it's gonna, obviously I'm not leaning towards a 10 because of those things. It's not the best story out there, I'm sure. But it's a great story to get your interest going into the character. And I think it's a decent introduction, especially into the psyche of the character. You get a backstory into his first life, into an understanding on why this is happening to him. So, I mean, for that, I'm leaning more towards an 8.
Okay. Ooh, risky pick paid off.
I know, I'm like, man, I'm usually the one who does risky picks, and I do them badly, and then you're here doing first risky pick, and I'm like, you butt nugget, but it's fine. Art is me.
Yes.
So, art-wise, again, it wasn't bad by any means. It wasn't anything that stood out. They also just have such dorky costumes.
For me, it's not even the costumes that bother me. It's Carter's face. He has like it's not evident in this panel and on this page, but there are so many pages. Carter has such a big head, but a little face.
I think that they did a great job in portraying.
Look at how massive his forehead is.
And yeah. Yeah.
He could be Tombstone in the Marvel universe.
But so anyway, so it's pretty, I'm gonna say vanilla, but I don't mean that in a bad way. Vanilla's my favorite of ice cream anyway, so it's fine. But it was very vanilla in terms of comic book art.
It's what you would expect.
Yeah. In some moments, it showcased the art style really well. Staying in the same tone, just doing it in a beautiful storytelling way. Which is why I'm not going to give it an incredibly low score, but I'm going to give it a 7 because it was what you expect and they did what you would expect well.
Yeah. I give the art a slightly higher score here just because as much as I don't like big head little face, you did touch on a point that is very important to me, and that's how well they do emotion and facial expressions. Like just looking at the page that I have up here is of Hothset's final moments, and the fact that he goes from like super angry to just absolutely beside himself with how upset he is that this is not turning out the way that he wants it to, is awesome. And
creepy burn face.
What?
And
it was his creepy burned face. Yeah. And they just do it over and over with Carter's face, with Shaira's face. There is a lot of emotion in this. Like, look how angry he is.
Yeah. They exaggerate the facial expressions really well to get the mood done. Sometimes it can be like read comically, but I mean, if you're reading it in the context of the story, it's not.
It's theatrical. It's like they're trying very hard to make sure that you see this emotion.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you show Sarah the picture out of context, she'd probably laugh. But if you were to read the page, she'd be like, "Oh, Sarah, our youngest sister."
Yeah. I do have to point out this panel as well, of her beating up all these zombie people. and like
Oh, sure.
literally kicking through someone's stomach. Like what? And then and then the old woman whose eyeball is like actually popping out of her head. It was ridiculous. And that is a part where I was laughing. Um,
I was
but
not.
and then another part that I really liked again was showcasing all of the different past lives and working that art into it and all these different ways and just the way like the big cinematic scenes were done, they were done very well.
Mhm.
And the art never, other than this one panel right here, the art never detracted from the story for me. So that's why I'm giving it an 8. All
Overall,
right.
your story.
Oh yeah, I guess it is my story. Overall, um, overall, I am still going to stick to the 7. Kind of for the same reasons about the story that I mentioned. I do think that uh, like, hearing you talk about it and the fact that you read through it and are like, oh no, I think it was pretty easy to follow, and you did not read all of the stuff before it, so it makes me
Right.
feel a little more confident in the fact that I picked what I picked.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I think this is a great book. I have huge respect for this character, and I definitely want to see more of him. I really want to find some books where Hawkman and Hawkwoman are interacting with like the Justice League and some things just to see how their relationship there plays out, because obviously this is like it's their arc, so there's not it's going to be their personal relationships, not the uh, relationships with other heroes, and I'm
Right.
very curious to see how that is, you know.
Right.
So for this being the first Hawkman that I've ever read, and the fact that Hawkman, I want to read more, but Hawkman could really be up there for me in the DC universe, just based off of all of this, and I'm here for it.
Mm. Um, and yours was a 7. So I'm leaning towards the higher end of my range, which is the
Okay.
same, just reverse. So I'm giving it an 8. And that is because it did interest me enough to want to look into the character. It is a comic that I would recommend to somebody getting into even just the DC world. It has a large audience pool that I could be like, anybody interested in mythology, anybody interested in past lives or that kind of
Reincarnation. Uh-huh.
reincarnation, yeah, that kind of theology or ideology or
Uh-huh.
um archaeology.
Uh-huh.
um there's so many different things
Birds.
that you can take away. I'm not going to say birds. Strong female superhero characters.
Oh, you know what? That's actually something I didn't mention in my story thing. Something that I think this book did really well is and this is it might sound silly, but it's like there's so often like a woman hero or women in comics in general, they're so beside themselves if they don't have their man kind of thing. There was only one moment with Hawkwoman where it was, like, oh my god, he's about to die. I don't want to live without him. But most of this book, it was Hawkwoman giving Hawkman strength. Like,
Yeah, no, she was
snap out of it.
I like her in this more than almost any of the Wonder Woman comics that I've read.
Yeah.
So, again, there's a large audience pool that I would recommend this to as a first read, to get interested in either DC Comics or just the hero in general,
Mhm.
which is why I'm leaning more towards the 8 than the 7, because the art didn't detract from the story. So I think that the story
Was
is
able to
worth the
shine.
recommend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I dig it.
recommendation.
Awesome.
I didn't finish
Well,
that word.
I will take a 15 out of 20
Yeah, of
for
course.
for my risky pick.
I don't even remember anymore what I picked last week.
Daredevil?
Oh, Daredevil.
Yeah. I remember because I have it written down in front of me because I've got my little notebook here. Um, Tell us about our next book, Anna.
Our next book is my pick for our independent, and it is Low, Volume 1. Um, yeah. I mean, I don't want to say too much because I give a spiel at the beginning of the next one saying why I picked it. So I'm just excited to read it. It's very different from all of the ones that I had bookmarked to read. Um, it was one of those things that I was between 3 independents, and then this one popped up, and I go, nah, never mind those 3 independents. I'll read this one. So,
Low, Volume 1, The Delirium of Hope. What a title.
yeah, I have a lot of. So, I mean, I picked. The last one that I picked was like a D&D type of a style. Then the one before that was heavy fantasy with like the mermaid themes, and this one's going to be way more sci-fi.
Yeah, this one looks sci-fi, and I'm excited to read it. And the
You have a few.
exciting thing is we're
What?
gonna be in person to record this one.
Yeah,
We'll be in person to record this one and our manga for the month.
indeed.
So
And then
that'll
hopefully our announcement video
right, right.
for our next ones.
Yeah. Which we already have picked out. No. So this is actually something that Anna and I were talking about doing, where we mentioned. So we always have 4 weeks of books picked out. So in the description below, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you are
I can
listening,
add it to our Instagram.
yeah, um, we have we already know what our next Marvel book is, and Anna has picked her next DC book, um, as well. I don't even remember what I picked for my next Marvel book.
That's okay. You have baby brain because you keep forgetting also when we're getting there, and I have texted
Yeah.
it to you. So we have it written.
We do have it written. That's the important thing. Um, oh God, it's gonna bother me though. I need to know. Anna, tell us where people can find you on the internet.
Instagram. I have 2 Instagram accounts, one personal, which I'm just really bad at posting, but mostly Hank stuff. My dog is Anna_Riddick, and then I have a design art account that is a Riddick_designs.
Nice.
And I have a Twitter, which is a Riddick Designs no underscore. And let's see if someone can convince me to actually go on it.
I
You
sent you a
sent me
link
a
of
thing, and I didn't really understand why that was why I should be on Twitter.
well, because
That's
there's
a
some great artists on Twitter, and
okay.
you're
Well,
a
I
great
thought there was
artist.
a specific post. Oh, that's so nice, and
You
it's
guys can
recorded.
you
We
can
got proof.
find me on the internet at It's Ben Pie pretty much everywhere. Also, my Marvel book is Wolverine, like the Chris Claremont and Frank Miller run. Super excited about it. Yeah, it's Ben Pie everywhere: Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. I also have an art Instagram, Ben Pie Photo. Really, if you want to find anything Ben Pie related, go to itsbenpie.com/links. And then to have everything Sibling Rival-Read related, go to itsbenpie.com/comic book club.
There's also links on our Instagram page for Sibling Rival-Read.
Perfect.
Woot!
Alrighty, guys. Make sure to keep those poll lists full until next week.
Shalom.
Shalom-Aste.
Hey. Man, last time I was too late. This time I was too early. I
I
gotta get on it.
I tried to do it with you, so that might be why it seemed too late.
Okay, so it's your fault.
My fault.